Well, welcome back to part 2 of Judith's head replacement. This is the time-consuming but valuable part of the job. We need to clean up all of these carbon build-up around here. Make sure all of this is clean. I've gone ahead and I've drained the water out of here. There's still a little bit in there. I'll probably use a jug of hot water and just fill that up with some water just to get rid of those bits in there, and then suck all those bits out, because you don't want those little bits of carbon that's fallen in there to block anything. Really, it's just very time consuming, but it's important that every single surface is nice and clean. My advice is not to use a metal scraper on it. If you gouge anything out, then that could be a potential head gasket problem further down the line. So yeah, the strong advice is to make sure that you take your time, clean everything up where best possible. What I'm using is I've used like an old card, an old bank card or whatever, or you could use, I was using earlier on, just a tablet, a used tablet packet, the edges of a used tablet packet. If you use plastic, then you're not going to gouge anything, and any tiny, teeny little, very fine scratches aren't really going to be a problem. But if you use metal and you gouge it, then there could be a problem further down the line. You can use some chemicals on here. My advice would be to use petrol. I don't have any petrol, but people can use a bit of petrol on there, which is fine. I'm using some Auto Gleam tar and adhesive remover, which is perfectly fine as long as I clean it up. When it comes to any of the surfaces around here, the only thing I'd probably advise to use is parts and brake and parts cleaner. You can spray that all in there, it doesn't matter. But I wouldn't use anything more than that, anything too strong, because you don't want to cause any further corrosion to the block or any problems. So really it's just a painstaking task now of just getting rid of all these little black lines in here. I've sacrificed a really decent little microfiber cloth for the job, and I'm going round and I'm cleaning it up best I can with the soft cloth, getting it as clean as I can before the head gasket goes on, because you want the surfaces to be as flat and as mount as possible, so that it doesn't fail in the future. The head subsequently has been given over, been collected by a friend yesterday. That is being currently tested. I think even Monday or Tuesday I should have it returned with a possible answer of what's happened. In terms of the actual procedure now, is I'll replace the cam belt and the water pump. Yeah, that'll be done today, ready for the car head gasket to be put, head gasket and the head to be put back on. And then really, once the head gasket's been put on, the bolts have been tightened in sequence. It really is a simple case of putting everything back the way it was, tightening everything up accordingly, and we should be good to go after that. Put some water in, the cooling water in. When it comes to the water, it's probably best, don't ever use tap water for the car. We know this, simply because this is where the water ends up. It's chambers used to cool down the chambers. If you get scale in there, that's gonna then cause the heat to, if you get scale, imagine if you get scale around these pots, that won't help with the heat dissipation, and then the heat builds up, and then you'll start getting an overheated engine, which then, if this heat comes back to the head gasket, then they'll start warping it and causing all kinds of problems. So one thing to learn from this is never use tap water, because if you've got scaly tap water like I have here, you're just going to ruin your engine. So I'll probably find some cheap coolant, some oat coolant, chuck that in to start with, run the car up to temperature, see how that goes, drop it if I need to. Probably will drop it because it will help clean out the system as well, and then put some fresh coolant in there from there, but that's the end process. Well, I shall carry on cleaning this up. So there we go, an hour later, I spent a lot of time cleaning this up, and it looks a lot better. I've cleaned out all of these channels, just put in a little bit of deionized water in there, just to kind of clean out any bits that fell in there. You're going to get the odd stainish marks around here. This is completely flat, but I've given these pots a wipe through the top of the pistons. Not going to spend, some people will spend time, they will use a tool to clean those up to remove the carbon. I don't want to damage anything, I don't want to cause any problems, so I'm not going to bother doing that for now. So this side is done, it's just the head that needs cleaning next, and that's what I'm going to do. That will be done as part of the overall check, but that needs to be done next, and then when the head comes back, we'll just put the we'll put the gasket on and the head on. What we'll do now is a look at cleaning this up. We'll remove the gasket. There's no harm in actually putting the new gasket on ready to go, to be honest. Little jobs like this are going to just save a little bit of time later on. So I'll clean all that up, we'll get the new gasket fitted. Same with this down here, this little pipe. The gasket's broken up, as you can see, so I'll scrape that off. We won't put that on until we come to putting it on the head, and again, you know, there's no harm here in just cleaning up the surfaces of the manifold, just to make sure everything is tidy and clean. Cleanliness with these kind of jobs pays in the long run, because everything should just work. So I fitted the inlet manifold gasket really easy. What makes it nice is that the fact is we haven't got a head, so because the head's not here I can work better. Really easy to put on when you've not got a head to work around. So it should fit in nicely, and it did. It went in absolutely wonderfully well. Make sure that everything's in there, tightened up and done properly. So I'm really happy with that. That's nice. I cleaned out the little bits. The old gasket's on the floor here, you can see. Yeah, the kit comes with all the gaskets, so that's fine. I'll clean this up next. We'll just use a little bit of a wire brush on that. Let's clean that up. I put this over here just to protect my work that I did earlier. You know, I don't want to dirty it when I was cleaning. And then it's just dealing with the belt side of things. That wasn't easy, because all the bits, crumbs coming up here, it wasn't easy to get that off. I had to end up sanding the surface a little bit to get that off. Not the best. I'm going to move on. I'm going to put some new Jubilee clips around there, hose pipe clips. I've got a couple in my box, so I'll get those replaced, and then it's moving on to other things. So the head has arrived back. It's been checked, and as suspected, it's perfectly fine. It isn't warped, and it has no pitting, so it doesn't need skimming. And looking at the overall condition of it anyway, you can quite see it's in really, really good condition. So we're good. We got away with having it skimmed, which cost more money. So took it away, tested it up, pressure tested it, and checked if it's warped. Now you can do basic checking anyway if it's warped by putting a steel ruler over, and just checking if there are any gappage. In this case, I've done that myself as well for my own peace of mind, and found that it's not warped. I've not got any gaps between it. It's all quite level. So I'm generally overall happy to fit a gasket on that, and it should be good to go. What I am doing now is sorting out these studs. These studs will need sorting out around here. So I'm just cleaning up the exhaust area with some tire remover and a little bit of just giving it a clean up. I'll give all this a bit of a clean up as well. It wasn't part of the service to clean anything up. It was just literally sticking it on and testing if it was if it had been warped or needed skimming. So they don't touch any of the clean inside of it. If I was to have it skimmed, they would refurb and clean up everything anyway. but it's a service I will do myself rather than pay for. So that's good news. So I will clean it up, and we'll try and get those studs in there if we can do it. Here is something that is a little bit of knowledge for you. This engine is extremely tappy top end. That's very similar to Reggie. The reason why this is tappy is if you look at the seating of the exhaust valves, you can see that these are relatively flush. That's relatively flush. These ones, however, are not flush. Let me see if I can refocus. They're not flush. You can see there's a gap. There's a gap in there, like that. You can see there is no gap on this one, no gap on that one, and no gap on that one. That means these tappets need adjusting, and what's happening is these are, as the engine's rotating, these are going too far up and they're making that tap 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 sound. To fix this problem, you'd have to have the head stripped. In this case, because of the car, I'm not going to get that done, because it'll need the head going off, or an engineering factor to take all the valves out, clean them, reseat them, and sort the tappets, the automatic tappets at the top, and it means taking the camshaft out of it and the cam carriers. To me, if I had the time, I would do it and learn how to do it, but I haven't the time. So fortunately, this poor car is going to have to be tappy for the rest of its life potentially, or just tappy for until somebody may want to repair it. But you could buy or purchase a complete block that isn't tappy and fit another block to it in the future if whoever has the car wants to do. But yeah, that's just a bit of knowledge for you as to why you're getting the tapping sound. It's not anything to worry about, but at the same token it's not ideal. But once these are adjusted down, that tapping noise will disappear. So I'm going to turn the block over and start cleaning this up. I've already started around here just to get rid of these on the exhaust side of things, give this a bit of a wire brush down, just to clean it up a bit more. So that's the exhaust side. I've cleaned up best I can, just to make sure some of the carbon bits are off, ready for the new gasket to go on. It's not a restoration of a head on this, so I'm not spending hours and hours, making it look brand new at the end of the day. And then subsequently we have the other side I've cleaned up as well, which is the inlet manifold side. So effectively now, this was cleaned up earlier before it went for testing, and that's perfectly fine to go straight on as is, I've been told. So yeah, let's sort these studs out first, and then I will then start looking at getting this put back on Judith with the new cylinder head gasket. Well, the time has come to fit the new cylinder head gasket. What I might do is I might fill these chambers up with a bit of coolant, just to make sure they're filled. That'll be the first job, although it's not essential because as it fills it up as the system goes through, but I might just help it out a bit by filling it up with a little bit of water. We'll do that just before we put the head gasket on. Then what we'll do is we've got the new head gasket here. This is a new head gasket, and then there's a shim that goes on top. Now my understanding is, I'm assuming F means front, because you should have a top and bottom. But I'm not seeing any markings on there that says bottom. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure. Little bits of interesting here. I don't know whether those recesses go into the actual head. Let's take a look. Not entirely sure. I'll work that out and come back. I'm going to assume, with that saying F, this is the front. It's got the date of manufacture on the front of there. So I'm going to assume that it's going to go on like this. This is what it's going to do. So I'm going to fit that in place. Because there's no markings on the back that says bottom or back. It just says F for front. So I'm assuming F means front. Kind of makes sense to me. I have no other indication apart from that. So yeah, we'll go with that. It seems to fit on the dowels correctly. And subsequently I had to change those dowels. You have to replace those dowels. They go into the engine block. These things here, you get them with the kit. And then you've got the shims. And in here we have the bolts. We have the bolts. They're the bolts, the brand new bolts. Yes, definitely got new bolts. So we're all good. See, the more expensive kit you get the bolts with it. Right, let's carry on. Okay, so I've put the gasket on. I've put the shim on top of that as directed by the instructions. I'm now at the stage where I've put the head on top, and now I'm just putting the bolts into it. The new bolts. So what I've had to do is I had to oil the new bolts. I don't have any real oil, so I've had to use my catchment can over there. I've had to move the cams again, so I've got access to here, but I'll have to redo the timing marks before the belt goes back on. It's just now a matter of just tightening these up. They've all been finger tightened up, so they're actually on the threads now, but they haven't been like literally tightened up, because that is a job that requires you to do it in sequence. I believe it's something like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. So we'll follow I'll follow the sequence in the Haynes manual over here. Maybe I'll just open it up for reference. That's the sequence that we're going to need. Starting with 1, 2 and 3. It is 20 Newton meters, I've been told, and turn all bolts 180 degrees, turn bolts through another 180 degrees. So that's what I'm going to do. And I only say 20 Newton meters is because the packaging itself for the actual manufacture of this gasket says stage 1 20 Newton meters, stage 2 180 degrees, and then another 180 degrees. I'll follow that. That's what it's said, and that's what we'll do. Okay, so I've put done up the head bolts in the rotation they're supposed to be. I used the torque wrench to taut it to 20 Newton meters as specified in the manufacturer of this gasket's instructions. Haynes manual just says tighten to tighten to manufacturer's specifications, but I'd have to look that up in the book, and often enough there's a disparity. So I'm going to go with what the manufacturer said on the 20 Newton meters, and I've done that. And then what I did with the breaker bar on here, I did my 180 degrees on each of them, and then another 180 degrees. The other 180 degrees the second time around was a lot more stiffer, but they're done now. The head is back on, the new gasket's in. Need to just reassemble this, put it all back together now. That's probably another day's worth of work, but all in all, so far so good. And then she'll be ready to go. Well, thank you for watching.